I think I've just started something. Look at that. Good morning. Afternoon. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Joey Yorkshire. I wonder if that's actually somebody from Yorkshire. Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Morning, morning. It's my trusty cameraman knocking things over left, right, and center. We're going to wait a little bit to get some folks to come on and join. I'll tell you what would be fun. If you have taken the StandOut assessment, if you could, in comments, if you could put your top 2 in there, we can start to see what sort of people that we have on the line. Just put your top 2 in there. Hi from Finland. Good night from Finland. I'm practicing my Finnish. I can't say that I'm fluent, obviously, yet. Kuala Lumpur, 3 a.m. 3 p.m. in Kuala Lumpur. Hi, Kuala Lumpur. Chicago. I guess is it snowing in Chicago? Connected provider. Of course, the connected providers are the first ones to actually put the strengths roles up here. Influencer, wow, okay. Provider equalizer, look at this. Creator pioneer. Provider teacher, love that. Those are obviously the best 2. Advisor. Okay, yeah. If you wanna put a comment in, just obviously put it in the comments. Hi everybody, snowing in Chicago. Yeah, I have some friends in Nebraska, and it's April, whatever it is, 17th, and it's snowing in Nebraska too. Stay warm, stay safe. We're at 12:01, and we're gonna just sort of wait a little bit for a couple more folks to come on if they want to come on. Hello from Lincoln, Nebraska. Hi, Stimulator Provider. Puerto Alegre, Brazil. Hello. I would say your names, but I'm not quite sure what the names are. Love Tonic 6. Okay. Hi, Love Tonic 6. Pioneer Provider. Okay, cool. Big Sun, Canada, Ottawa. Okay. Hello, West Texas. From the land of enchantment. Hello from the land of enchantment. Where's the land of enchantment?
Disneyland.
Is it really? Oh, I thought it was close. Okay. Tar Heel Country. I'm going to think that's probably North Carolina. Miami. All right. Well, hello. It's Friday afternoon, my time, about 12:02. So I thought we'd just go ahead and dive in. The purpose of all this, of course, is we have this pause. We have this time, and it's a struggle, and it's difficult for so many of us in so many ways. But it does give us a chance to stop and think, doesn't it? It gives us a chance to reflect on ourselves and those that we love and those we care about. And so for those of you that have been following along at all these last 2 weeks, our thinking's been, look, if you're going to get through this for yourself, you're going to need resilience. And if you're going to need resilience, you're going to have a clear idea of what your strengths are. So now's a good time for you to sit and think clearly about what your strengths are. And also in the spirit of I see you, I love you, now's the time, I know we talk about social isolation a lot, but now's the time for connection, for actually stopping and looking at the people that you love and care about through an appreciative, strengths-based lens. We have such a negativity bias, don't we, where even the people we love can somehow sort of get on our nerves sometimes. And now's the chance to think about the best of each of the people that we love and care about. Now is that opportunity. So my hope over the next few weeks is going to be to help you have real mastery in your own strengths and mastery in the strengths of the people that you love and care about. And we thought StandOut, the StandOut Strengths Assessment, was a really, really good way of giving you that language. So that's kind of what I want to dive into and help you debrief for those of you that have taken it and got a report like this one, to help you debrief what that report is and what you can really do with it. So so I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll dive through the report itself. And then if you've got questions as we go through, the whole point of this course is that we're live. So, from the time then Don Clifton and I and the other folks at Gallup built StrengthsFinder 20 years ago until the building of StandOut about 10 years ago to now, I sort of haven't really had a lot of deep dives and interactions with each person who's taken the assessment. So this is a really interesting and good opportunity, I think, to just take your questions and dive into some of the things that you want to talk about. We've already got a lot of interesting questions online. What's the difference between StandOut and StrengthsFinder? Can I take StandOut twice? What happens if I get a certain result and I don't like what the results are? Can I get my kids to take this? So we've got all those questions, but I'm not going to just dive in and do the questions. I think what I'll do is I've got a little bit of structure that I'm going to follow, and then any question that you have, let's use this live opportunity for me to dive into those questions. So in comments is where I will see what the questions are. So please put any questions that you have in those comments, and then I'll see them, and as you can probably see, everyone else is going to see them. And if there's stuff that you like or stuff that you want to get more of, press that little heart button on the bottom right. You know how to do this, probably way better than I do. But this is live, so yes, if you've got a question like John has, do you think our results will change from decade to decade? I'm going to try and take these as we go through, if that's all right. I've also got a few of my team watching this and keeping close track of the questions as well. So if I don't get to them live, then we're going to keep track of all of them. And then every Friday, just FYI, every Friday, while we're still all quarantined, we're going to come back on and we'll do this live every Friday if you like it and if you want it. And so that's what we'll do every Friday, and be ready with your questions. We'll share with you a nugget of something, and we'll try and take the questions that you have, and the ones that we get to today, great. The ones that we need to dive into next week, we'll be back next week. And in the interim, if you want to see more or less from me about this, just on Instagram is probably the best place to come and share that. What do you want more of? What do you want less of? So, okay, first thing, if you've taken this StandOut thing, you've got a 14-page report. I would like you to be able to do two things with this report. If you do nothing else, just please do these two things with this report. First, as you'll see, the first 8 pages of it, the first 8 pages are all about you right now. They're all about you right now. This is Darlene's. Hi, Dari. This first page basically says this is your greatest value to your team. It's your elevator pitch on who you are. Second, you've got your list of 9 strengths roles, all in a row. Yours will not look the same as Zari's. The order does matter. The strength of the lines do matter. Then you've got your top strengths role, the definition, and then as you can see, you've got you at your most powerful. And then you've got your second role, the definition, and the second role, you at your most powerful. And then the last one is some phrases we thought you might want to have so that you could describe yourself. It's so weird, isn't it? We're not very good at describing the best of ourselves in job interviews, in conversations. So we thought, let's actually help you have language to describe the very best of yourself. So 2 things for you to do after this weekend. First of all, go through those first 8 pages for yourself and highlight what really sings to you. Highlight the phrases or the words where you read them and you go, heck yeah, that's me. Highlight those. Just really think about which ones leap out at you. And then if you could, go deeper. These aren't labels. One or two of you are asking about labels. Each one of these 9 strengths roles isn't a label. It's like a door. It's the beginning of your curiosity about yourself. I'm stimulator creator. You may be too. But you're going to be, I said this in the post the other day, you're going to be different than me. So these 9 strengths roles are a place to begin, to dive in, to how do your strengths actually show up in the real world. So the first thing to do, please don't put this in a drawer. Go through it and identify the words or the phrases or the actions that really sing to you. And then second, give those, you could give the whole report, but give the first 8 pages to the people on your Strong Life team, or the people that you're currently quarantined with, or the people on your work team. Give the first 8 pages and ask them, in what would be a beautiful conversation, ask them to describe what it is that they see in you. What of these phrases and descriptions, what have they seen in you? It's not always going to be the same, is it, as what you see? That's one of the key differences, by the way, between StrengthsFinder and StandOut. When we built StrengthsFinder, it was designed as what's called a self-assessment. We asked you a whole bunch of questions about how you see yourself. Are you a teacher? Are you a coach? Do you like to hang out with futurists? Do you like to hang out with historians? If you have ever taken StrengthsFinder or Myers-Briggs or Enneagram, or DISC. These are all self-evaluations. We're sort of seeing how you see yourself. That's what we did with StrengthsFinder. It was a strengths language on how you see yourself. StandOut, as you may remember, we weren't asking how you see yourself. We threw situations at you, and then we looked to see which way you jumped. You didn't know the right answer, did you? You didn't even know we were measuring you on these nine strengths roles. So the results that you get back aren't necessarily how you see yourself. They're how other people see you. That's what StandOut is. It's how other people see you. So it would be a super interesting conversation to give this. Some of you are saying, yeah, you talked to your family about it over dinner. Yeah. Give the first 8 pages to someone who knows you really well and see what they come back with. It's fascinating to be able to see yourself through the lens of people who know you well. So many times when I've had people get their results, they're like, huh. And there's some of you may have gone, oh, and you did, you wrote this. So me. And then some of you went, Well, it may well be that the way you see yourself isn't quite the same as the way other people see you. So do those 2 actions. Highlight the phrases and words that really sing to you and think about how they show up in the world. And then give the first 8 pages to the people who know you best and have a conversation. I mean, we've got time on our hands now, in a way, for some of us anyway. So this is a chance for you to have a really good conversation about how you see yourself and how others see you. And then once they've given you their response to yours, you should flip it around. And you should read their 8 pages and see what really comes to life for you. It's the beginning of a meaty conversation. And before I take some more questions here, the whole point of this, of course, is that something like StandOut isn't the end. Ooh, look, I've got a label on my back, I'm creative. It's not the end of anything. It's the beginning of a conversation. It's the beginning of an inquiry by you about you at your best. So those are the 2 things, whatever you do, I hope you do those 2. Then what I was thinking is I would go through what these 9 strengths roles are. And I thought I would do that and take your questions as we go along the way. Yes, you've got a top 2. And so you're probably most interested in your top 2. And if you've got provider, some of you have provider, like his mark, equalizer provider. Well, is that different than provider equalizer? Is that different than equalizer plus something else? I'm sure Mark is probably like super interested in that. Yeah, and as Erin says, it's fabulous to have a language to describe the people that you love in your life. It's like having 12 notes. Like you can write any music you want with those 12 notes, but sure is handy to have a common language to be able to create whatever music you want and also to read someone else's compositions. Well, that's in a sense what these 9 strengths roles are. It's a common language to be able to describe the incredible diversity of people around us. Yes, John's saying, I want to see what my bottom 2 are as well. Well, actually, John, the 3rd page, page number 3 of your report shows you all 9. You can see your bottom 2. By the way, quick word about the bottom 2. This is Dori's. And sorry, Dori, but I'm going live with this too, everybody. Pioneer influencer are Dori's bottom 2. Pioneer influencer. That does not mean that Dori doesn't have influencer. That's not what that means. She has it. Like if your bottom 1 is influencer, it doesn't mean you don't have it. It means you don't lead with it. We gave you didn't know this, but we gave you 12 different chances. 12 different scenarios where you could have picked one of those 9 strengths roles. 12 different chances in 15 minutes. So every one of the 9, you had 12 different chances to jump in that direction. We gave you a scenario like a friend at work passes your idea off as her own. What would you do? And then we gave you choices and we put you under a timer. Would you pass it off? Would you let it go because you can always come up with another one? Would you tell her that what she did was wrong? Would you clarify with others that it was originally your idea? We gave you these choices and then you jumped quickly. You're under a timer. You jumped. And we gave you 12 different chances. So with Dari's, it came up, I don't know if you can read this, but provider, stimulator were number 1 and number 2 for Dari. And that means simply that we kept giving her chances to jump one way or another, and she kept jumping in a provider, stimulator way. The same's true for you. For your top 2, you didn't know what the right answers were. This is not a self-evaluation where you saw the choices. You had no idea what was in the black box, if you like, but you jumped, you jumped, you jumped. That's where these top two came from. So your bottom two, you may have a bit of influencer, a bit of pioneer, whatever your bottom two are. All this report means is that you don't lead with those things. We don't rely on you for those things. Those things aren't frequent and recurring parts of your behavior. Because remember, StandOut is not a personality test. We're not trying to sum up your personality. We're trying to do something really simple. We're trying to say, what do people hook onto about you? What do people hook onto about you? So that's what this rank order means. So one quick thing before I dive in here. A number of you asked this. I need to retake it. I can't see you said this, but I answered this as though I was in my home situation versus when I was in my work situation. Some of you said, like, would the answers be different if I was answering it as a mother versus answering it as an employee? Look, that is a super interesting question, but we are trying to get at the recurring patterns of who you are in every situation. There are certain parts about each one of you that you take with you situation to situation to situation. Now the trick and the science of this is, can you design questions and situations that cut through your intellectualization of who you are as a mother versus who you are as a worker? Can we actually get at the things about you that are transferable situation to situation to situation? Now look, they may manifest themselves differently in one situation versus another, but do they show up consistently situation to situation? That's what we were trying to get to in StandOut. It's not much point in designing an assessment to try to get to the heart of you if basically the heart of you changes according to what situation you're in. We're not trying to measure a situation, we're trying to measure the core of you. I would strongly encourage you to look at how you answered it. We gave you about 29 seconds. And the first time you went through it, the first time is going to be the best time. As in, it's going to be the most accurate predictor of who you really are. And I would encourage you, if when you got your results back and you went, wow, provider simulator, is that really me? Before you reject something, at least extend your structure of interpretation to the idea that other people may see you that way. And that's not a bad thing. It might well be a massive unlock for you. Somebody just answered, does it matter if I missed a question? No. One question, you're okay. 2 questions you missed, you're okay. You missed 3, and we basically stopped the show. So if you missed 3 or more, we're going to stop the show on you. But if you missed 1, you're okay. I would still completely have faith in what the results revealed about you. And I would ask you to keep your mind open to this. This is as I said, it's a situational judgment test. You didn't know what the answers were going to reveal. We tried to take your intellectualization out of it, and we just wanted to see which way you jumped. So when you got your results back, at least keep your mind open to the way that those 2 came up as number 1 and number 2. Some of you have asked about retaking it. Can I retake it? Well, you can. I mean, you can retake it. Having said that, you don't actually get as accurate and more accurate a result if you're taking it the second time, because your mind's prepared. By which I mean, you've now seen this report. You've taken it, you got your report. You've seen all the scenarios one time too. So now when you go through the second time, now you're like, now that I've seen how it comes out, I'm going to be ready. So the second time that you do it is a little bit of a different experience. The first time is always the best time. Are there insights that could help you flex your style based upon situation or position? Well, the last page, the first 8 pages of this report are all about who you are. But the last, whatever it is, 6 pages are all about what to go do with it. So we tried to give you some really specific things that you could do to flex your strengths based upon different positions. So there's a whole section on your ideal career. There's a whole section on how to make an immediate impact. I thought we should then write something about how to take this to the next level. So that's on page 11 for most of you. And then we're into some stuff that you could do to win as a leader. Like, why do we follow you? That's a bloody interesting question, isn't it? Why do we follow you? How do you win as a manager? That's for those of you in management spots. How do you win in client services? How do you win in sales? So the last few pages are really all about exactly that question. How can you actually put this to work in different situations and positions? What is the corner of pioneer creator? Okay, so I'm going to dive through these 9 strengths roles here real quick. Ask any questions as we'll keep going through. First of all, the reason to do this, of course, is that this isn't just about your top two. You're going to have to stay connected and get connected to the people around you, whether it's a team or a family member. And so if you really want to see people for the best of themselves, you've got to learn the language. You've got to learn what these 9 strengths roles mean so that you can have really rich conversations about each person. How many advisors have we got? How many? Marcus, what are you? Creator stimulator. Which for me, I'm going to say this right now. I was going to say this later, but I'll say it for right now. I was talking to some of you about Tracy Hutton on this. Tracy's a long-term colleague of ours at Lulu now. And Tracy's got the same creator stimulator. Creator stimulator actually pull you in different directions. They pull you in different directions. If you're a creator, you want, some of you who've got this, you've seen this in your report, you want to be by yourself. You want time to think. You want time to process, and your world gets a little frazzled when you can't. Stimulator is much more like, I want to lift up the energy in a room. I kind of want to be on stage. I kind of want to be sharing what brilliant thing I'm thinking about because I think it would make people excited. So this creator, you want to be by yourself. Stimulator, you want to be out and up. And so you find during the course of your life that you're pulled in slightly different directions. I bet you felt like that. If you're like pioneer creator, like that person was. Pioneer to creator is really interesting. Creators are like, look, before I move, I need to understand the world. What do I understand is the very first question that a creator asks. What do I understand? If you're a creator, by the way, right now, you're probably noodling about, well, Marcus, slow down. Slow down. Where did these 9 come from? Why are there 9? Was there a 10th role? What's the 10th one? Now, some of you aren't thinking that at all, but creators right now, as I'm saying this, I bet there's a creator stimulator going by right now. Creators are going, just slow down. I need to understand what the heck this is. For the person who was creator pioneer's pulling you in exactly the opposite direction. Pioneers are going, I don't know what's around the corner. I got to run. I got to move. I learn through movement. So creator pioneer, you're pulled between quiet, let me think, and let me run and move. And it's kind of interesting how you turn those up or down during the course of your week. You read my mind. I know, it's kind of funny, isn't it? This isn't as an assessment. This isn't designed to caricature you. It's designed to help you go, oh, wow, that's kind of why I do that. I wonder how I could turn up my pioneer and down my creator sometimes, and then other days, I kind of want to turn up my creator and down my pioneer. So it just gives you a way to be more in control of yourself. And then if you're managing or leading people, more in control of how to get the best out of them too. Yeah, everyone shows up differently, don't they? Creator provider. Well, creator provider's got a different sort of tension, doesn't it? Creator provider, you've got a different thing going on. Provider is really all about holding the emotion of a person, holding the emotion of someone else, and making sure that they know that you've got them. And it's a strength that gets you really empathetically tight with another human. Well, creator isn't. Creator's like, I want to be all by myself. Thank you very much. I want to just noodle in my own mind. What do I understand is where I'm happiest. So provider, creator, you've got people and their emotions, and creators like me and my concepts. You know, for creators, some of the best conversations they have are with themselves. and you know who you are. There's days when you get out, like which side of the bed do you get out on? Do you get out on the creator side of the bed? And some days you get out, the provider side of the bed. It's funny how multifaceted, this is an obvious statement, of course, but how multifaceted we are. Teacher equalizer. Sorry, now that I've got these coming at me, I'm just teacher equalizer. By the way, if you're a teacher, that doesn't mean you're a teacher. It means that you're the person who asks the questions. You're always asking the questions. You are aware that there's no right answer to something. You ask the questions, and then you let somebody else's perspective inform you. You see everyone as a work in progress. And that's kind of interesting. Each person's progress and growth is legitimate and authentic. Now, equalizer, for those of you, how many, give some love if you're an equalizer. Who's an equalizer here? Okay, we got some equalizers coming in. Yeah, equalizers. Well, equalizers, the first question an equalizer asks is, what is the right thing to do? Equalizers, that's why we put the symbol as a balance, because equalizers are about the world in moral balance, the world in moral order. If you do something wrong, then you don't just apologize. You make restitution. Equalizers are about, I mean, not all of you are about rules, but you're about moral order. Some of you actually are about practical order. Of a Friday night, you do want to alphabetize the spice rack. You're like, oh, look at this. We can do it again next week too. You know, and that's kind of an equalizer moment. So teacher equalizer, think about that. Equalizers like, there's a right thing to do. Teachers are like, wait a minute. Let's ask you a bunch of questions about where you're coming from, because the only way you're going to grow is to start from where you're at. Well, that's very different than equal. So the tension between teacher and equalizer is almost individualization versus equity. Individualization versus structure. That's kind of fascinating. Provider equalizer has some of that same, because equalizer is very structured. Provider is although actually those two things can combine, because if you're provider equalizer, you've got our back. Provider equalizer. It's like, boy, one of the reasons why I built this originally was I want someone like you to know. Do you know how we look at you? Do you know how we look at you? Provider equalizer. We look at you as a person who's completely and utterly got us. In terms of your equalizer, you're someone who does what he or she says they're going to do. And in terms of provider, you are thinking about my emotional status, how I'm feeling. Wow, you've got me. And it's just such a blessing for us to be able to turn to you and go, do you get that about you? Now look, maybe some of you go, no, I totally do. Totally do. Always knew that about me. But there's others of you, provider equalizers in the world, who are like, I actually didn't know that. And by the way, I didn't know how to say that without sounding braggadocio. So that's one of the other points of this, is this isn't, provider equalizer aren't good things. Strengths are value neutral. You could use provider equalizer really badly. You could use it to hurt people. Strengths are value neutral. The whole point of this darn language and this assessment is to help you figure out how to contribute your strengths healthily. So that's provider equalizer. The first thing we might want to do is turn to you and go, oh my gosh, you have so got my emotional back, and you've got my follow through back. You've got me. I would follow you to the end of the earth and back. For me to say that to you isn't to pat you on the head and say, well done for being you. It's actually a set of expectations. I want you to step into the best of you. That's what we're asking of you. So this isn't about bragging. Nothing in this is about bragging. It's all about helping you be curious about how to contribute more. Advisors. I just a quick word on advisors. Any advisors? Because, I've got the list here. We are actually almost across. We had 16,000. We put this out. We're like, we'll do 500 a day. Okay, well, we're down on 16,000 people in 5 days. 16,000 people. We're like scrambling to make sure we can take everyone in. It's actually a pretty balanced across the board. Advisors are about 1,200. What was that?
It's okay.
What was that?
The data.
Yeah, so it's pretty balanced across the board in terms of number. They're not more or less, but advisors. Yeah, advisors. If you've got an advisor in your family, practical, pragmatic, whereas the equalizer's like, what is the right thing to do? If you live with an advisor, they're always thinking about what's the best thing to do. I always struggled with advisors because I don't actually like problems. Advisors like stepping into it. If you have a problem, they don't run away from it. This is one of the first places where you realize just how different people are. Because I was pretty darn convinced that there was someone on my team that used to bring me problems all the time. And I was like, why are you bringing me don't drag me down like that. And of course, they turned out to be an advisor. And for them, a problem is fuel. If you live with an advisor, it's an opportunity. Every problem is an opportunity to come in and fix it and make it right. What's the best thing to do? Practical, pragmatic. Now, a quick word on advisors. In a sense, every one of these strengths has a dark side, kind of. Or rather, we can caricature you by your dark side. We could say to an advisor, you are opinionated. Maybe even bossy. We could say that. The whole point of doing this is that we have such a negativity bias as human beings that we're so quick to say, well, your strengths are also your weaknesses. And it's like, Or we say, oh, you can have too much of that strength. No, you can't. You can never have too much of any of these. And anytime you hear anyone say, well, you've got too much of that strength, like imagine if you were to say that to someone, because then your advice would be, well, turn that down, which really translates into, well, be less of that, be less of that, be less of you. We found out who you are, now be less of it. Could you just turn it down? Just terrible advice. What you would say to an advisor is, you can use that unintelligently, or you can use that intelligently. If I want to coach you, I will try and help you figure out how to use your advisor-ness intelligently. How many connectors have we got? Yeah, problems are fascinating. Problems are fascinating. I don't think so. But it's funny, like I'm not right. That's why giving people advice is such a dangerous thing to do, because every person I would give advice to, I would be coming at them from a stimulator creator world. And yet there's a bunch of advisors on the receiving end of my advice going, what? You know, as you just said, like advisors, I mean, problems are fascinating for some people. And so the point of this would be to, you know, let's figure out which of those people on your team or in your family might be the sort of people that find problems fascinating. Connectors. Oh yeah, connector. Anna-Marie. Let's see some more connectors. Connectors. Quick word on connector. Connector doesn't mean you like mingling. I mean, I hate mingling. It does, as it happens. Other than moist, it's the worst word in the English language, mingle, in my view. But connectors aren't necessarily minglers. If you have, how many connectors? Connector advisor, okay, connector creator, yeah, pioneer connector. Connectors, you should know this about yourself. We rely on you because you're so bloody resourceful. Connectors wander through the world like Velcro. You're just picking up people or books or resources or situations. You're just picking up stuff and putting them in your Velcro backpack, because you never know when a situation or a person might need that person, that book, that resource. You're always thinking about the connection points between people or projects and situations. And so we rely on you because you're so darn resourceful. You always know a person. You always know a book, a resource. You've got something in your bag. You got so. It's so. And of course for you, connectors, you're so close to your own strengths, you can't even see them anymore, can you? That's the other point in doing this. It's why we did StrengthsFinder too originally, was get some step back from distance from yourself. Connectors, you're so resourceful. Creators, I've talked about. Creators, how many creators? Let's have some shout outs for creators. Some people are jealous of me when I connect. I know, yes. Although it's funny, right? If you're a creator, so I'm a creator. My shell is a connector. Creator, once I've figured something out, creators are like that. We need to stop. We need to think. The world is confusing and weird if we don't stop and really think about it. And we can frustrate people because we have to live in unless our concept is clear, we can't move. Although if you're a pioneer creator, you might be actually pulled before. Anyway, that's a longer story. But connectors want to move more quickly. Well, what about this? Well, what about this idea? What about this idea? You know, some of the clashes or frustrations between people can be as an example, creators going, I can't move until the idea, the concept is fully understood and baked. And once it's baked, I don't want any more information, actually. And connectors are like, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, what about this? And the creator's like, I can't put any more stuff in my concept. So again, really helps you understand when someone's throwing something at you you're not ready for, whether it's a problem or a new connection, they're not trying to ruin your world. They're trying to engage with their world in a way that makes sense for them. And so obviously with all of this, the challenge is to see people for the brilliant, unique, weird people that they are, so they can make you better and stronger. Equalizer. How many equalizers? I talked a little bit about equalizer, but equalizers, throw some shout outs for those. We've got about 1,000 of you. What about this? My favorite question. Oh, what is the question? What about this? Oh, got it. What about this? This is my favorite question. Yeah, it's really annoying for me because when I'm done with my concept, I don't want another what about this. Equalizers. Order, structure, practical, moral. We love that about you. Influencers. Let's just jump right there. Influencer advisor. Wow. So influencer advisor. That's a powerful combination. Influencer's first question, for those of you that don't know any influencers, influencer's first question in any conversation is, well, how do we move you to action? How do I move you to action? I don't mean this the wrong way, but for influencers, almost any conversation is a sale. Almost any conversation is a let's move. Persuasive. Always thinking about what is the leverage point to get you to do something you didn't intend to do. Now again, you could use influencer badly. You could come across as assertive or aggressive even. You could. Or you could understand the concept of goodwill and how to sow seeds of goodwill so people want you to do what you want them to do. The best influencers make a lot of stuff happen, and we actually get to feel as though it's our idea, which is kind of cool. Pioneers. Teacher connector, teacher influencer. I'll get to teach in a second here. Any pioneers? Throw some love. You got some pioneers. Really struggled with my Pioneer Creator result. Can you elaborate on that? Yeah, well, Pioneer, first of all, you think about the questions that we asked you in Pioneer. Pioneer is all about, to begin with, going, the world is a friendly place. The world is filled with ambiguity, but probably around the corner is something good, not something bad. So the overall orientation of Pioneers is optimism. The world is full of opportunity. And we gave you a lot of different choices around a Pioneer. And if you came out Pioneer number 1, and by the way, it's about 1,300 of you did, it means that you kept choosing the ambiguous answer. You kept choosing the answer that had ambiguity in it, and you were okay with that. You kept doing that. The orientation there is because the world's good, the world's friendly. It doesn't necessarily mean you're an inventor. It doesn't necessarily mean you're an entrepreneur. It just means that your approach to the world is, I will go across town stoplight to stoplight. I'm not going to have to wait until all the stoplights are green. And I am not afraid of starting to go across town without knowing what the 10th stoplight is showing. Now, the tension for you in your life, if you're Pioneer Creator, is that the Pioneer says move and the Creator says stop. Or rather, the Creator says don't start until we've fully baked this, which is in a sense the conceptual equivalent of saying, let's not go across town until we're stoplight to stoplight. So I bet, I don't know you, but I bet you feel that tension sort of all the time. How should we really marinate on an idea, a concept, a project, a person, versus how much just moving, because we'll learn more if we move. Again, as I said, these strengths of yours, they aren't perfectly aligned. They're unique and weird, and your combination, by the way, maturity is probably best described as the intelligent integration of two competing strengths roles. That's maturity. You might even say, not to get highfalutin, but that's wisdom. That's wisdom. And when you see someone in your family or on your team who's defensive and brittle, it might well be because she or he has yet to resolve these sometimes mutually incompatible impulses. The most awesome people I find energetically to be around are the people who've taken their contradictory nature and woven it into something beautiful and contributive. What if I have one dominant strength and then 4 almost equal in the next spot? Gosh, that's a good question, isn't it? So we asked 12 questions for each of the 9 strengths roles. And so as I was saying about Darlene, it's like she's got a big kind of blue one and then a bit of a jump down. That does mean something. If you've got a really long number 1 and then everything else is kind of the same, that is meaningfully different than top 2 really close. I always begin by looking at the strength of that first line. If you've got one strength that clearly is far more prevalent than any of the others, then take your time to really open that door, walk in, and see how that manifests in you. Because remember, this is about how you come across to others. So we look for strengths that are spiky, strengths that are sharp. We look for things to grab onto about you. What's beautiful about having one long dominant strength is you are, to us, predictable. We get you. And because we get you, we trust you. It's a beautiful thing. Now, if you don't know what that one is, and you're kind of flailing around and you don't really know who you are, then we don't trust you. Which is why thinking carefully about what your number 1 is really, really important.
Can you talk about just advisor? The advisors are saying, talk about advisor.
Just advisor? That's so funny. Michelle's like, could you shut up and just talk about advisor? Because the advisors are like, we want you to do what we want you to do. Okay, fine. The reason we follow you if you're advisors is because you're in the real world. You understand that the real world is messy, it's pragmatic, it's connected so that if you do this thing, then this thing happens. And you as advisors, you know that not everything works out the way that it's supposed to work out. And we have to step into the breach and make another decision and make another decision and make another decision. So we turn to you. I always think about it as, somebody, even at 10 years old, you were like this, weren't you? At 10 years old, somebody turned to you in the schoolyard and went, I've lost my homework, I don't know what to do. And you were the person who didn't run away from that conversation. You ran into that and went, here's what we're going to do. You're the person we turn to when things need to be solved, fixed, moved, decided. And I have a whole bunch of advisors on my team, and I need you. If any of you want to come work for me, advisors, I need that, because this is going to sound weird because I'm not going to say it quite right, but I don't think I have a lot of common sense. I'm a creator, stimulator. I like concepts, and I like sharing those concepts with people in a way that gets them excited. That's not a right thing to be. That's just the way I am, and my contribution to the world will be determined by whether or not I do it intelligently with good data and good insight. But I'm not commonsensical. Advisors are super commonsensical in the sense that, Marcus, don't fly off over here. What are we going to do? How's it going to work? That's the beautiful thing about, and gosh, if you're advisor and something else, advisor equalizer is different than advisor provider, is different than advisor pioneer. So look at your number 2. And by the way, look at your number 3. That's why you need to learn all these 9 strengths roles. Look at your number. In fact, in terms of our time, I better just finish off the ones that I haven't. Provider, sorry, advisors. If you want me to come back, I'll come back around to advisors. But I'm provider? Okay, providers, but yeah, provider is you've got our emotional back. You're aware of it. You can't not be aware of it. The hard thing about providers, by the way, because you're so, this is also true probably for every one of these strengths roles. There's a version that is how you come across to others, and there's a version of how you make sense of yourself. So providers, of course, are all about taking care of someone else's emotion, making sure that you're there for it. But they also have a you take care of me vibe. There's a little bit of and you need to take care of me. It's like, hey, listen, if I'm going to take care of you, you better take care of. So advisors have expectations of being, that you're a provider rather, provider, yeah. Providers have an expectation that you're going to take care of them in the same way that they take care of you. And we sort of all have that, don't we? We all sort of assume, treat people as you would like to be treated. On one level, that's good because it's all about being there for people. But treat people as you would like to be treated is weird on another level, isn't it? Because it means that we assume that people want to be treated the way that we want to be treated, which is pretty egotistical when you think about it. It's the whole idea where we shouldn't follow the golden rule. We should follow the rule that says treat people as they would like to be treated. Providers kind of want to be treated as though you're a provider, which probably causes some conflict with some families, some relationships, where the person who's a provider is married to a person or in a relationship with a person, on a team with a person who's like an equalizer, and the equalizer is like, I don't even know what you're talking about, the provider, because we're talking a different language. So it causes some conflict. Stimulator is all about understanding the spotlight, understanding the limelight, understanding light. You see and feel emotions of an email string, of walking past someone in a corridor, of the written word, of the spoken word. You see and feel the emotional valence of a world, and you want to yank it up. Providers much more about the individual and making sure that we catch it. Stimulators, it's like you can't help it. You want to take people's emotions and lift them up. And when you sense them, flipping down or slipping down, advisors might be blind to it. You want to lift it up. Last one, teachers. I think I said teachers see people as a work in progress. You begin with asking questions because you know that the person's going to grow and learn only from the place where they're currently at. And so the questions are the way that you understand where the person is currently at. Okay, so those are all 9. Just see if there are any other questions that are coming through here. What if you're a stimulator provider? Stimulator influencer, useful and painful. Yeah, stimulator provider. Well, again, I think of these as your strengths coordinates. So stimulator provider, what would I know about you? Stimulator provider, I do know some stuff about you. I know that you're always going to be thinking about the emotional angles of the world. Both lifting up, which is stimulator, and catching when people need you, which is provider. You're the sort of person that people will be drawn to because they will feel emotionally safe around you. And it'll be fun. So that combination is really interesting because you've overloaded on the emotional realities that the people around you face. You're super attuned to them. Now, how well you manifest them, I don't know. How well you've applied this, I don't know. What you've built on your corner, I don't know. But stimulator provider, we are going to lean into you because you've got a rich, fluent emotional language. Oh shoot, I just missed one.
Dark side of teacher.
What's the dark side of teacher? What's the dark side of teacher?
Gender.
Did Jen just ask that?
No.
Oh. I always hesitate to go there because, gosh, every single one of these has a dark side. And I so don't want really almost any... What?
What does dark side mean?
Oh, a dark side just means like a dark side it can have a negative connotation. We spend so much of our time characterizing people by their faults and their failings. And it's pretty quick, isn't it, where you turn an idiosyncrasy into an annoying quirk. We're so fast on that. So for the most part, I would love it if we spent this time really anchoring on the positive manifestations of these strengths. Teachers ask great questions. Teachers see people as a work in progress. Yes, dark side. You don't know when to stop investing in a person. You'll keep investing and keep investing and keep investing when there's probably a time for you to go, come in, sit down, I love you, you're fired, I still love you. That is a very hard thing for a teacher to say. Because for the teacher, the person's growth, no matter how inconsistent it might be or how slow it might be, is always the point. And so there's probably some times for some teachers where you go, like the advisor would go, look, we're going to move on now. Influencers might go, you're not helping our cause to move this forward. But teachers, you sort of never give up on a person, which sounds beautiful. But it can be, there probably are some times, particularly in the business world, where you're like, you know what, now's the time for us to move in a different direction.
Can strength be overused?
Well, so, yeah, my show was like saying, can a strength be overused? No, it can be poorly used. And you might think that's playing with words. If you say to somebody, you can have too much of a strength and then your strength becomes a weakness, which, let's face it, we read a lot about. The coaching advice you would give on the back of that is tone yourself down. You've got too much of that, which is terrible advice. Much more intelligent probably to go, wait a minute, you can use these natural predispositions for productive ends or for negative ends. It's probably going to be better if you use them for productive ends. How can you use any one of your strengths productively? That's what this is all for, to help you be the most intelligent version of you. Leads to much better coaching advice. Want to reread the book to familiarize with all the strengths and the dark sides. I think what I'll do, by the way, for those of you that really want to dive into each one of the 9 strengths, for those of you that really want to get mastery on this, we'll shoot some, probably from this, when I stop here, we'll shoot some video on the dark side of each strengths role. How does each strengths role learn and grow? What can you most rely on that role for? I think I'll shoot a couple of videos like that and put them on Instagram so that for those of you that really want to dive in, you can. So watch this space on Insta, What's It, and we'll put some of those up. Maybe take a couple more questions, then we'll be done for the day.
Can I? There's a theme of question. It's like, what's the difference between StrengthsFinder, MBTI, DISC?
Okay. So questions about what's the difference between StrengthsFinder, MBTI, DISC, Enneagram? 2 things. 1, DISC, Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, Herman Mind Dominance. These are personality tests trying to sum up your overall personality, your full range of personality disposition. In the case of Myers-Briggs, it's an extension of Jungian archetype theory from the 30s, put together by two mathematicians, actually. Enneagram has a different orientation. DISC, as you know, is all about colors. Well, for those of you who don't know, it's all about different colors. But they're all trying to sum up your personality, and all of them are self-assessments. So you are responding to different statements, and then you're choosing, and then the assessment itself aggregates your responses and then says, look, here's your personality. StrengthsFinder, when we built it, is not a personality test. We built StrengthsFinder to be able to pinpoint your strengths. We felt that there wasn't a language to, like, most personality assessments, like the ones I just mentioned, are based on pathology. They're based on pathological functioning of the human being. So at the time, this was like 1998, 1999, 2000, we were like, let's build a language around the human strengths, human optimal functioning. There wasn't a language. So we built StrengthsFinder really for the individual to have a very, and we sliced it very finely, 34 themes for those of you who haven't taken it. It takes you 45 minutes to take it. And it's a strengths assessment, but it's a self-assessment. So we gave you these choices. Choose teacher, choose, do you like to hang out with historians or do you like to hang with futurists? And then you make the choice. And then we simply took all your choices, 172 of them, and then we put them into a calculating machine and we gave you your top 5, which is amazing and great. And obviously I'm massively advocating StrengthsFinder. I think it's amazing. It's a wonderful view of how you see yourself, which is a great place to start. All the teachers on the call right now are going, ooh, that's so great. With StandOut, I really just wanted to give you a different angle, going, how do you come across to others? In a sense, don't take this the wrong way, but I don't really care how you see yourself. I mean, I do. But I really care about how you consistently and repeatedly come across to your family or your team or your customers. Because sometimes we get so wrapped up in ourselves we can't actually see ourselves. So that's what StandOut is. StandOut is a situational judgment test. You don't know the right answers. And as some of you have taken it twice now or 3 times, the first time you took it, you had no idea what particular choice would lead to what particular strength, right? So that's the beautiful thing about a situational judgment test. It's like bang, 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 bang. No time. You can't intellectualize it. You just got to jump. We're getting your top of mind response with an unprepared mind to a situation you've never encountered. That's cool. That's not conflicting with StrengthsFinder. I think I'm, in terms of my top 5 on StrengthsFinder, I've got futuristic, context, individualization, intellection, ideation. Futuristic and context, the future and the past, it means I miss the present sometimes. But that's interesting. Like, those 5 are interesting to me, how I see myself. As I said, my top 2 in StandOut, creative stimulator, for me, that's like, I need to take responsibility for the fact that a lot of people in my world probably see those 2 things. And maybe they love me for it, or maybe they sometimes get super flippin' frustrated with me about it. But I need to own that. Because not that StandOut is ever going to perfectly sum you up. It's not trying to do that. But it is trying to give you access to some parts of you that you may not see, that you nonetheless hit other people with. Any other
really
questions?
Quick, can you talk about compatibility? Some people were like, what if I have this strength and my spouse has this? Or
so Michelle was saying, Michelle's here, I would turn the camera, but then I'd drop the camera and the whole thing would fall apart. Compatibility. There's a whole day we could spend on relationships. I mean, the idea of a beautiful relationship, of course, is someone who knows you, sees everything that you do, good and ill, but chooses to characterize you by those things about you that are beautiful and powerful and useful, and you feel understood. The reason we call this whole program that we started here these last couple of weeks, I See You, I Love You, is that you can't love what you can't see. And so many of us, aren't we? We're in relationships, or we've been in relationships, where the person says, well, I love you, but they actually they can't see you. And you know you're not seen. And so whatever it is they're feeling for you, it's not based upon who you really are. But boy, if you can be with a person who knows who you really are at your best, and chooses not to pat you on the head for it, but to characterize you by it, to see you through that lens, that is very, very love-filled, isn't it? Because you feel like someone is seeing you for your very best self. You will know that you're not perfect. You will know you are. And I don't mean what's on the bottom of your 9, but you know you make mistakes, and you know sometimes you let other people down. And you just hope that the person you're with doesn't become a doctorate level person in all your errors and your failings. Because how awful is that? To be in a relationship where someone characterizes you for all the things you aren't. But a lot of us are in relationships like that, and that hurts. A lot of us can't see our children because we keep wishing our children were better, different. Gosh, that's harsh. Now, over and above that, though, are 2 strengths roles compatible more than others? Not that we've seen. And I know you could do Match.com and chemistry this, but you look at the best teams. A creator can work with a pioneer. So long as the creator knows that the creator is a creator and the pioneer is a pioneer, then you forgive. You forgive each other for not being a pioneer if you're a creator. You forgive for not being perfect. Relationships like leadership is an act of forgiveness first, isn't it? Forgive me for not having everything, and then characterize me for what I have. But over and above that, there isn't one strength that's better tied to another strength as it happens. All of them can work together so long as there's understanding of each. We're coming up on an hour, and this was probably longer than I thought this was going to be.
One quick thing about children. What age is the appropriate? So you may as well just...
So people are asking about what age. My nieces, I don't know if my sister Pippa and my nieces Remy and Greta are watching back in the UK. Sort of 12, and they took it 12 and like 13, 14. And it's funny, everyone's different in terms of their reaction. I think that's a little young. We made it for 18 and up, but actually probably more like 20 and up. If you know, the scenarios are more toward work. Look, I've had my son take it, my daughter take it. It's just kind of fun. But we are actually going to make, right now, some of you know this, we're in the middle of making a StandOut student version, which means we have to take the StandOut student, we have to take this sort of scenarios and make them student relevant. We are going to finish that research and bring it to the world in partnership with the ADP Research Institute that I co-run and the Harvard Business Review. And we're going to bring that out in October, and we're going to give it away. I have zero interest at all in doing anything in schools other than for the greater good. So we're going to make a StandOut student version that you can give to a sort of 12-year-old to 18-year-old so that we can have some rigor around strengths in schools, and then we're going to give it away. So watch this space. If you would like to stay connected with us around that, then please reach out on Instagram or through Team Marcus. You can see how to get in touch with us there. For the next 3 or 4 months, Dr. Mary Hayes and myself are going to grind on these scenarios to make sure they really, really, really work for kids. And then we're going to put it out in October. I am super excited about that. I want that to be part of my contribution, I guess. And I hope it will become really, really valuable for teachers and for parents. Because, of course, a creator learns differently than an advisor does. Some people learn by doing, some people learn by watching, some people learn by copying. Wouldn't it be great if you knew that about your kid? All right, we've got to the end of the hour. I see some. You're an ambassador. Okay, we have some people that have already volunteered, by the way, to be StandOut student ambassadors, who are either administrators in schools or parents who want to be involved or teachers who want to be involved. If any of you want to be involved in the StandOut Student Initiative, which is not for profit and obviously begins with us redesigning the assessment, which we're doing now. If you want to be a student strengths ambassador, then please reach out to us and we will bring you into that ambassador program. Changing the way we do schools is a huge thing. Maybe next week we'll talk more about it. It is a big subject. Okay, thank you so much, everybody, for hopping on.
Friday at noon.
Friday at noon. We'll be back next Friday. I think there's a lot of questions we didn't get to. How does one become an ambassador? Maybe one of my team can get that. But we'll be back on every Friday. Friday, more of this. If you want more of this, bring your teams. I love this. I hope I got to some of your questions. This is sort of my first time doing this, but stay safe and stay strong. And please do those 2 things. Highlight the items or the sentences or whatever that really sing to you, and then give it, first 8 pages, give it to someone who knows you really well and loves you, and see what they come back with. At the very least, it would fill a really lovely, long Sunday afternoon. All right. Lots of love to all of you. And I'll see you next Friday, same time, noon Pacific, here, wherever you are. All right. Take care.